Princess Zera stood in the grand crystal chamber of the Zerian High Council, her translucent blue skin shimmering with nervous energy. The 7 elder council members towered above her, their crystalline bodies catching the light from 1,000 floating orbs that illuminated their underground palace. Princess Zera, spoke Elder Kylox, his voice resonating like distant thunder. You have been chosen for a mission of great importance to our people. Zera's heart fluttered with excitement. At only 100 years old, she was considered barely an adult by Zerian standards. Most princesses her age spent their time studying harmonic frequencies or practicing the ancient art of crystal singing. But here she was, about to receive her first real assignment. You will travel to the 3rd planet of the Sol system, Elder Kylox continued. The inhabitants call it Earth. Your task is simple: study these creatures called humans and determine if they are worthy of joining our galactic trade network. Zera nodded eagerly. Though she had never heard of humans before, on Zerion, when they needed more people, they simply gathered in groups and sang special songs. The vibrations would cause the crystal caves to grow new Zerians, perfectly formed and ready to learn. It was efficient, clean, and took only a few hours. What makes these humans special? Zera asked, her curiosity getting the better of her royal training. Elder Vex, the oldest of the council, leaned forward. They have built impressive structures and machines despite lacking our crystal technology. We must understand how they think, how they live, and most importantly, how they create more of themselves. How they create more of themselves, Zera repeated, confused. Don't they just sing like we do? The council members exchanged glances, their crystal forms flickering with what might have been amusement. That, young princess, is exactly what you must discover, Elder Kylox said with a smile. 2 days later, Zera found herself aboard a small Zerian scout ship. Invisible to human detection systems, the ship looked like a floating crystal the size of a small house, powered by harmonious vibrations that could bend space and time. As she approached Earth, Zera pressed her face against the crystal viewing panel and gasped. The planet was stunning. Unlike Zerion's underground crystal cities, Earth was covered in blue oceans, green lands, and swirling white clouds. Tiny lights dotted the night side, indicating millions of human settlements. Computer, begin human observation protocol, Zera commanded as her ship settled into orbit. For the first few days, Zera watched human television broadcasts and listened to their radio signals. She quickly learned their language through her universal translator and began taking notes on what seemed like very strange behavior. Humans, she discovered, spent enormous amounts of time doing things that made no sense. They would sit in dark rooms staring at large screens showing other humans pretending to be different people. They would gather in groups to watch other humans kick a ball around a field. Most puzzling of all, they seemed obsessed with something they called love. Computer, define human term love, Zera requested. Love appears to be an emotional attachment between humans that serves no apparent biological function, the computer replied in its neutral tone. Zera frowned. On Zerion, relationships were based on harmonic compatibility. If the Zerians could sing well together, they might choose to live in the same crystal cave. It was practical and efficient, but humans seemed to make relationship decisions based on completely irrational factors. She watched as humans gave each other small gifts for no reason. They would hold hands while walking, even though this slowed them down significantly. Most bizarre of all, they would press their mouths together in what they called kissing, which seemed to serve no purpose except to exchange germs. These humans are very inefficient, Zera muttered, making notes on her crystal tablet. They waste significant time on meaningless social rituals. But as days turned into weeks, Zera found herself oddly fascinated by human behavior. She began focusing her observations on something humans call dating. Young humans would spend hours preparing their appearance, then meet other humans at restaurants where they would consume food, while talking about their thoughts and feelings. Why did they need to eat together? Zera wondered aloud. On Zerion, we absorb energy directly from crystals, much more efficient. She watched a young human couple sharing a meal at a restaurant. The male human had brought flowers, which would die in a few days. The female human seemed delighted by this gift of dying plant matter. They spent 2 hours talking about their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. Computer, what is the purpose of sharing personal information with potential reproductive partners? Zara asked. Unknown. Human behavior patterns do not follow logical reproductive strategies. The computer responded. Zara zoomed in on the couple as they left the restaurant. The male human took the female human's hand, and they walked slowly down the street, stopping frequently to look at things in shop windows. When they reached the female's dwelling, they stood close together and pressed their mouths together for several seconds. Fascinating, Zara whispered. They're exchanging breath. Perhaps it's some form of chemical communication? She decided to observe more human couples to understand this strange ritual. What she saw next confused her even more. Some humans would engage in this kissing behavior multiple times during a single evening. Others would do it once and then never see each other again. There seemed to be no pattern or logic to it. Over the following days, Zara expanded her observations to include human families. She watched parents caring for small humans, feeding them, teaching them, and showing what appeared to be endless patience with their slow development. On Zarian, new individuals emerged from the crystal caves already possessing basic knowledge and abilities. These human offspring, however, seemed completely helpless for years. How do humans even survive as a species? Zara wondered. Their young require constant care. Their reproductive rituals are time-consuming and inefficient, and they make decisions based on emotions rather than logic. Yet something about human behavior intrigued her. Despite their inefficiency, they seemed to experience something Zarians rarely felt, joy. She watched humans laugh together, comfort each other during difficult times, and celebrate each other's achievements. On Zarian, relationships were pleasant but predictable. These humans seemed to bring each other a kind of happiness that made their faces light up, and their bodies move with energy. Computer, prepare a preliminary report for the High Council. Zara commanded. As she organized her notes, Zara realized she had more questions than answers. Human society was far more complex than she had initially assumed. Their inefficient behaviors seemed to serve some purpose she couldn't understand. And despite their apparent irrationality, they had built a remarkable civilization. Subject, preliminary human observation report. She began dictating. Humans display highly complex social behaviors that appear inefficient but may serve unknown functions. Recommend extended observation period to understand reproductive and social systems. These creatures are far more sophisticated than initial assessment suggested. As she sent the report to Zarian, Zara looked down at Earth with new curiosity. She had thought this would be a simple assignment, but these humans were proving to be the most interesting mysteries she had ever encountered. Little did she know that her real education about humanity was just beginning, and it would change everything she thought she knew about life, love, and what it meant to truly live. 3 weeks into her mission, Princess Zara thought she was beginning to understand humans. They were emotional creatures who made decisions based on feelings rather than logic. They spent too much time on social activities that seemed pointless. But they were also surprisingly creative and caring toward each other. Then everything changed on a Tuesday morning. Zara was conducting her usual observations, scanning different human settlements for interesting behavior patterns. She had started focusing on what humans call hospitals, because these buildings seemed important to their society. Humans would rush to these places during emergencies, and many wore white clothes while working there. Computer, zoom in on the large building with the Red Cross symbol. Zara instructed. The image on her crystal screen became clear, showing her the inside of a busy hospital. Humans in colorful clothing moved quickly through bright corridors, carrying various objects and speaking urgently to each other. Zara had been watching hospitals for days, trying to understand what humans did in these places. She had seen humans bringing other humans who appeared damaged or sick. The healthy humans would work on the damaged ones using strange tools and devices. Sometimes the damaged humans would leave walking normally. Other times, they would be covered with white cloth and taken away quietly. Interesting healing practices, Sarah noted. Much more complex than our crystal energy restoration chambers. But then she saw something that made her crystalline form flicker with shock. In a small room filled with soft light, a human female was lying on a raised platform, surrounded by other humans in blue clothing. The female appeared to be in distress, making loud noises and breathing heavily. Zara assumed she was sick or injured. Computer, analyze the human female's condition. Zara requested, subject appears to be experiencing significant physical stress, but vital signs indicate normal biological function, the computer replied. Zara leaned closer to her viewing screen, confused. If the human wasn't sick, why was she making such sounds? Why were so many other humans gathered around her? And why did they all seem excited rather than worried? Then something impossible happened. A tiny human emerged from the female human's body. Zara's crystal form went completely transparent with shock. Her harmonic frequency jumped so high that several objects in her ship began vibrating sympathetically. Computer, replay that sequence, she gasped. The image rewound and played again. Sure enough, a small, perfect human appeared, covered in a protective substance. The other humans quickly cleaned the tiny being and wrapped it in soft fabric. The most shocking part was that everyone in the room seemed happy about this occurrence. Computer, explain what just happened, Zara demanded, her voice shaking. Analyzing. This appears to be the emergence of a new human individual from an existing human's body. Zara stared at the screen in disbelief. The tiny human was moving its small arms and legs. Its eyes were closed, but it was making small sounds. The female human, despite looking exhausted, was smiling as someone placed the tiny being in her arms. This is impossible, Zara whispered. Humans grow inside other humans? She immediately began scanning the hospital's computer databases using her advanced translation systems to understand the medical information stored there. What she discovered made her even more shocked. Human reproduction was nothing like Zarian reproduction. Instead of singing crystal formations into existence, humans actually created smaller versions of themselves inside their own bodies. The process took 9 months, during which the female human's body would change and grow to accommodate the developing tiny human. Computer, access all available human reproductive data, Zara commanded. As information flowed across her screen, Zara learned about concepts that seemed like science fiction to her. Humans had something called pregnancy, where new life grew inside a female's body. They had complex biological systems that allowed to different humans to combine their genetic material to create entirely new individuals. They manufacture new humans inside themselves, Zara said in amazement. Their bodies are like living factories. She discovered that human couples didn't just hold hands and kiss for social reasons. These behaviors were part of a complex biological process that could result in creating new life. The mouth pressing she had observed wasn't just germ exchange. It was part of something called romance, which led to bonding, which led to reproduction. Computer, prepare an emergency transmission to the High Council, Zara said, her mind racing. Emergency transmission prepared, the computer responded. High Council of Zarian. Zara began, speaking rapidly into her communication crystal. I must revise all previous assessments of human capabilities. These beings possess biological technology far beyond our understanding. They can create new individuals using only their own bodies, without any external equipment or harmonic assistance. She paused, trying to find words that would convey her amazement. Honorable elders, humans don't just reproduce, they literally grow new people inside themselves. The female humans carry developing offspring for 9 months, providing everything needed for life through their own biological systems. This is not primitive behavior as we assumed. This is the most advanced reproductive technology I have ever encountered. Zara sent the transmission and immediately began preparing detailed reports. She gathered medical data, recorded birth events at multiple hospitals, and documented the various stages of human development from tiny beginning to full-grown adult. The more she learned, the more impressed she became. Human bodies could heal themselves, adapt to environmental changes, and most remarkably, create entirely new life forms. On Zirion, they needed crystal caves, harmonic frequencies, and precise environmental conditions to create new individuals. Humans could do it anywhere, anytime, using only their natural biological functions. 6 hours later, her communication crystal began glowing with an incoming message from Zirion. Princess Zera, Elder Kylox's voice filled her ship. Your report has caused quite a stir in the High Council. Are you certain about these observations? Completely certain, Elder Kylox. I have documented evidence from multiple sources. This changes everything. Elder Vex's ancient voice joined the conversation. If humans possess such advanced biological capabilities, they may be far more valuable as allies than we initially thought. Our own reproduction rates have been declining for centuries. As our harmonic requirements become more complex, continue your research, Princess, Elder Kylox commanded, but focus specifically on understanding this human reproduction process. Could their methods benefit our people? Could we learn from their biological systems? I understand, Elder Kylox, Zera replied, though her mind was already spinning with questions. After the transmission ended, Zera looked down at Earth with completely new eyes. She had thought humans were simple creatures who wasted time on meaningless activities. Now she realized that everything she had observed, the dating, the kissing, the long conversations, the gift-giving, might all be part of an incredibly sophisticated reproductive system, computer. Modify observation protocols, she said. I need to understand every aspect of human reproduction, from their initial courtship behaviors to the development of offspring. This is no longer just a trade evaluation mission. Protocols updated, Princess. As Zera prepared for her next phase of research, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to discover something that would change not just her mission, but her entire understanding of what it meant to create life. These humans had turned reproduction into something beautiful, complex, and deeply personal. She had no idea that her next discoveries would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, relationships, and the meaning of family. After receiving urgent orders from the High Council to investigate human reproduction more closely, Princess Zera realized that observing from space wasn't enough. She needed to walk among humans to understand their complex mating rituals from the inside. Computer, initiate biological transformation sequence, Zera commanded. Standing in the center of her ship's transformation chamber, Zirians possessed the ability to reshape their crystalline bodies, but it required enormous concentration and energy. Zera had practiced this skill since childhood, but she had never attempted to mimic an entirely different species. Warm light surrounded her as her translucent blue crystal form began to shift and change. Her tall, angular frame compressed and rounded. Her crystal skin became soft and pink. Dark hair sprouted from her head, and her large, multifaceted eyes transformed into smaller, single-pupil human eyes. When the process finished, Zera looked at her reflection in the ship's mirror. She appeared to be a young human female with curious eyes and an eager expression. Transformation complete, the computer announced. Warning: maintaining human form will require constant energy. Extended use may cause fatigue. Understood. Zera replied, surprised by how different her voice sounded. Create human identity documents for integration into their society. Within hours, Zera had become Zoe, a graduate student in anthropology from a distant human city. Her ship's advanced computers had created a complete background history, academic records, and even social media profiles that would pass any human inspection. Zera chose to attend Riverside University, a large institution where thousands of young humans gathered to learn and, more importantly for her research, to engage in courtship behaviors. She enrolled in classes, rented a small living space, and prepared to blend in with human society. Her first day was a disaster. Welcome to Introduction to Cultural Studies, the professor said to a room full of students. Today we'll discuss human mating rituals across different cultures. Zera's eyes lit up with excitement. This was exactly what she needed to learn. She pulled out a crystal tablet, forgetting that humans use primitive paper notebooks. Excuse me. The student next to her whispered. What is that thing? Zara looked down at her glowing musical tablet that was currently displaying complex harmonic equations. Oh, this is a very advanced laptop. The student stared at the impossible device. But before he could ask more questions, Zara quickly hid it and grabbed a regular notebook from another student's bag. During the lecture, Zara took furious notes about human courtship patterns, frequently raising her hand to ask questions that made the entire class stare at her. Professor, when humans engage in recreational mouth pressing, what is the optimal duration for genetic compatibility assessment? The room went silent. The professor blinked several times. I'm sorry, could you rephrase that question? She means kissing, another student whispered loudly. Are you asking about kissing? Zara nodded enthusiastically. Yes, kissing. How long should humans kiss to determine reproductive compatibility? The professor cleared his throat awkwardly. Well, that's not exactly how human relationships work, Zoe. After class, several students approached Zara with amused expressions. You're really weird, said a young woman with bright red hair. I like that. I'm Maya. Want to get coffee and talk about your unusual perspective on human behavior? This was perfect. Zara had found a human willing to explain their social customs. At the coffee shop, Maya peppered Zara with questions while Zara tried to appear normal. So where are you from exactly? Maya asked. Because you talk like you've never seen humans before. I'm from very far away, Zara said carefully, a small, isolated community. We don't socialize much with outsiders. That explains a lot, Maya laughed. Okay, let me give you the basic rules of human dating. For the next 2 hours, Maya explained concepts that completely baffled Zara. Humans didn't choose partners based on genetic compatibility or practical considerations. Instead, they looked for something called chemistry, an invisible attraction that made them want to spend time together. But how do you measure this chemistry? Zara asked, pulling out a small device that began beeping. Do you use harmonic frequency analysis? Maya stared at the beeping device. What is that? Oh, this is my phone. Very new model. Very beepy, right? Maya said slowly. Anyway, chemistry isn't something you measure. It's something you feel. Like when you meet someone and your heart beats faster, or you get butterflies in your stomach. Zara made careful notes. Heart rate increases indicate reproductive compatibility. Butterfly consumption suggests dietary changes during courtship. No, Maya laughed. Butterflies in your stomach means you feel nervous and excited. It's a metaphor. A metaphor. Humans use a lot of metaphors for feelings, Maya explained patiently. We say things like falling in love even though nobody actually falls anywhere. This was getting more confusing by the minute. Zara had thought human language was straightforward, but apparently they said things they didn't mean all the time. Over the following weeks, Maya became Zara's guide to human social behavior. She took Zara to parties where young humans gathered to meet potential partners. She explained the complex rules of texting, dating apps, and social media interactions. The key, Maya said, is to be yourself, but also be the best version of yourself, but not too perfect, because that's intimidating, but also not too flawed, because that's unattractive. Zara's head spun trying to follow these contradictory instructions. Maya also arranged for Zara to go on actual dates with human males. These experiences were educational disasters. Her first date was with Tyler, a business student who took her to a restaurant. Zara spent the entire evening taking notes on his behavior and asking clinical questions. So Tyler, she said, scribbling in her notebook, what is your genetic health history? Any hereditary diseases I should know about? What are your reproductive intentions for the next 5 years? Tyler nearly choked on his food. Excuse me, I'm just trying to assess our compatibility. Zara explained helpfully. On where I come from, we're very direct about these things. Where do you come from, exactly? Tyler asked suspiciously. Very far away, Zara said, then quickly added, Canada. Very rural Canada. The date ended early. Her second date was with Jason, who took her to see a movie. Zara had never experienced human entertainment before and spent the entire film asking questions. Why is that human pretending to be afraid of the obviously fake monster? She whispered loudly, the creature's harmonic frequency is completely wrong for a real predator. Shh, Jason hissed. It's just a movie, but the scientific inaccuracies are astounding. Zara continued. That explosion would never occur in that atmospheric composition. Other moviegoers began complaining about her commentary. Despite these failures, Zara was learning important information. She discovered that human courtship wasn't just about reproduction. It was about finding someone who made you happy, someone you enjoyed talking to, someone who shared your interests and values. This concept was revolutionary to her. On Zarian, relationships were practical partnerships based on harmonic compatibility. The idea that humans chose partners based on emotional satisfaction seemed wildly inefficient, yet also strangely appealing. Maya, Zara said one evening as they walked across campus, why do humans make relationship decisions based on emotions instead of logic? Because emotions are part of logic for humans, Maya replied. Being happy with someone, feeling understood, having fun together, that's not separate from practical considerations. That's what makes a relationship work long-term. Zara stopped walking, struck by this insight. You mean emotional compatibility is actually a form of practical compatibility? Exactly. You're finally getting it. As weeks passed, Zara began to understand that everything she had initially dismissed as human inefficiency actually served important purposes. The long conversations weren't waste of time. They were how humans determine intellectual and emotional compatibility. The gift-giving wasn't pointless. It was how they showed care and attention. Even the seemingly silly activities like dancing or playing games were ways for humans to bond and have fun together. Most surprisingly, Zara found herself enjoying these human experiences. She liked having long conversations with Maya about ideas and feelings. She enjoyed trying new foods and watching movies. Even if she still made too many comments about scientific accuracy, she started to understand why humans valued happiness and emotional connection. But her biggest revelation was still to come, because soon, Zara would meet a human who would teach her that all her research into human reproduction had missed the most important element of all: love. After 2 months of disastrous dates and confused social interactions, Zara had begun to think she would never understand human romance. Then she met Dr. Alex Chen in the university library. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, Zara was sitting at a table covered with books about human biology, anthropology, and psychology, trying to make sense of her research notes. Her notebook was filled with observations that still puzzled her. Humans give flowers that die quickly. Possible symbolic meaning? And why do humans enjoy dancing when it serves no practical purpose? She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice someone approaching her table until a warm voice said, "Excuse me, but I couldn't help noticing your reading material. Are you studying xenobiology by any chance?" Zara looked up to see a young man with kind eyes and slightly messy black hair. He was holding a stack of books that made her crystal heart skip a beat. They were all about astrobiology, the search for life beyond Earth, and theoretical physics. "Oh," Zara said, quickly covering her notes, "I'm studying anthropology, human behavior patterns." "That's fascinating," Alex said, his face lighting up with genuine interest. "I'm Alex, by the way. I'm working on my doctorate in astrobiology. Mind if I sit?" It's rare to find someone else interested in the deeper questions about life and intelligence. As Alex settled into the chair across from her, Zara felt something strange happen to her transformed body. Her human heart began beating faster, and she felt oddly warm and nervous. Even stranger, her hidden Zarian crystal core began producing soft, musical frequencies that she had to suppress to avoid detection. "So what specifically are you studying about human behavior?" Alex asked, genuinely curious. "Reproduction," Zara blurted out, then immediately regretted it when Alex's eyebrows shot up. "I mean, family structures and relationship formation. Not anything weird," Alex laughed, a sound that made Zara's harmonic frequencies fluctuate even more. "Actually, that's not weird at all. Reproductive strategies are fundamental to understanding any species. I spend most of my time thinking about how life might evolve on other planets. For the next 3 hours, they talked about topics that excited Zara more than any conversation she'd had since arriving on Earth. Alex theorized about silicon-based life forms, crystalline intelligence, and the possibility that consciousness could exist in forms completely different from human biology. Imagine, Alex said, his eyes shining with excitement, if there were beings made of living crystal, with harmonic communication systems instead of vocal cords. They might think humans are just as strange as we think they are. Zara nearly fell off her chair. This human was describing her people with remarkable accuracy. That's very specific, she managed to say. I know it sounds crazy, Alex continued, but I've been studying radio signals from deep space, and some of them have harmonic patterns that remind me of music. What if there are species out there who communicate through frequencies we can barely detect? What if indeed? Zara whispered, fighting to keep her natural crystal resonance from betraying her excitement. As weeks passed, Zara found herself spending more and more time with Alex. Unlike her previous dates, conversations with Alex never felt forced or awkward. They would sit in the library for hours, discussing everything from the possibility of quantum consciousness to the mathematical beauty of spiral galaxies. Maya noticed the change immediately. You're glowing, she said one evening as they walked back to their dormitory. I'm what? Zara asked, alarmed. Had her human disguise started failing? Not literally glowing, Maya laughed. It's an expression. You look happy, really happy. This Alex guy must be pretty special. Zara considered this. She was happy, but it was unlike any happiness she had known on Zirian. Zirian satisfaction came from harmonic harmony, an efficient crystal resonance. This human happiness felt warm and bubbly, like energy dancing through her transformed body. Maya, Zara said carefully, how do you know when you truly care about someone? Oh boy. Maya grinned. You're falling for him, aren't you? Falling for him? But I'm walking normally. Another metaphor, Maya explained patiently. Falling in love means developing deep feelings for someone. Your heart starts doing funny things when you see them. You think about them constantly, and you want to share everything with them. Zara realized with shock that she was experiencing all of these symptoms. When Alex smiled at her, her human heart would race. When they were apart, she found herself wondering what he was thinking, and increasingly, she wanted to share everything with him, including the truth about who she really was. The turning point came during a late evening study session. Alex had been working on calculations about interstellar travel, and Zara had been helping him, careful to not reveal too much about Zirian space technology. You know, Alex said, looking up from his equations, you have the most amazing insights into theoretical physics. Sometimes it's like you already know answers that I'm struggling to figure out. Zara's heart stopped. Was he becoming suspicious? I just read a lot, she said quickly. It's more than that, Alex continued, moving closer to her. There's something different about you, Zoe, something special. The way you think, the way you see the world, it's like you're looking at everything from a completely different perspective. As he spoke, he reached out and gently touched her hand. The moment their skin made contact, something extraordinary happened. Zara's suppressed Zirian frequencies suddenly harmonized with Alex's human biorhythm, creating a resonance she had never experienced before. To Alex, it might have felt like a simple electric spark between two people attracted to each other. To Zara, it was a cosmic symphony that made her understand, for the first time, what humans meant when they talked about connection. Alex, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Yes, I care about you, more than I've ever cared about anyone. Alex's face broke into the most beautiful smile Zara had ever seen. I care about you too, Zoe, more than I thought possible. When he leaned forward and kissed her, Zara finally understood what all her research had been missing. Human reproduction wasn't just about biology or even emotional compatibility. It was about finding someone who made your soul sing, someone who completed harmonies you didn't even know you were capable of creating. As their relationship deepened, Over the following weeks, Zara discovered aspects of human connection that no amount of observation could have taught her. She learned about trust, about vulnerability, about the joy of sharing not just thoughts and ideas, but dreams and fears. Alex would bring her small gifts, not because human courtship required it, but because he saw something that reminded him of her and wanted to share that moment. He would listen to her strange questions about human behavior, with patience and curiosity instead of judgment. Most amazingly, when they were together, Zara felt more like herself than she ever had, even while disguised as a human. Alex brought out qualities in her that she didn't know existed: playfulness, spontaneity, and a kind of joy that had nothing to do with efficient crystal resonance. But as their connection grew stronger, so did Zara's internal conflict. Every day, she was falling deeper in love with both Alex and the human experience of love itself. Yet every day, she was also living a lie that was becoming harder to maintain. Her crystal core had begun responding to Alex's presence in ways that were becoming difficult to hide. When he laughed, she unconsciously hummed at frequencies that made nearby glass objects vibrate slightly. When he was sad or stressed, her natural empathic crystals would glow faintly, requiring constant concentration to suppress. More concerning, her body was changing in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Her Zirian physiology was somehow adapting to her human form, making the transformation feel less like a disguise and more like a genuine evolution. One evening, as they stargazed on the university observatory roof, Alex pointed to a constellation and said, "Sometimes I wonder if someone out there is looking back at us, wondering what we're like." Zara's heart ached with the weight of her secret. "What if they were closer than you think?" she asked softly. "What do you mean? What if someone from out there was already here, learning about humans, maybe even falling in love with them?" Alex turned to look at her with curious eyes. "That would be the most beautiful first contact story ever told," he said. "Imagine if the first real communication between species wasn't through radio signals or official diplomatic contact, but through something as simple and universal as love." As Alex spoke about love being a universal language, Zara realized that her research mission had become something far more significant than cultural observation. She had discovered that connection and caring could transcend not just individual differences, but potentially even species boundaries. But she also knew that her greatest discovery was about to become her greatest challenge, because soon she would have to choose between the duties she owed to her people and the love that had transformed her understanding of what life could be. 6 months after arriving on Earth, Princess Zara woke up feeling strange. Her human body felt different, heavier somehow, and her usually perfect harmonic frequencies were fluctuating in patterns she had never experienced before. At first, she thought it was just the strain of maintaining her human form for so long. The transformation required constant energy, and she had been pushing her limits. But as days passed, the strange sensations intensified. She was sitting in the university medical library, researching human health symptoms, when she came across information that made her crystal core freeze with shock. The changes in her body, the nausea, the fatigue, the emotional sensitivity, matched perfectly with something humans call pregnancy. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself. Staring at the medical textbook, "Zirians can't reproduce. With other species, our biology is completely different." But even as she tried to convince herself it couldn't be true, Zara knew something unprecedented was happening. Her hybrid physiology, shaped by months of living as a human and deepened by her emotional connection with Alex, had somehow adapted beyond what any Zirian scientist thought possible. Panicking, she returned to her ship that night and ran every diagnostic scan available. The results were clear and impossible. She was carrying a child that was somehow both human and Zirian. "Computer, immediate emergency transmission to the High Council," she commanded, her voice shaking. "Emergency transmission prepared." The computer responded. "Honorable elders," Zara began, struggling to find words for something that had never happened in Zirian history. "I must report a development of unprecedented scientific significance." Through my research into human reproduction, I have somehow become pregnant. She paused, knowing how impossible this would sound to her people. The hybrid embryo appears to be developing normally, combining both human biological systems and Xerian crystal matrix formation. This should be scientifically impossible, yet it is occurring. I require immediate guidance. The response came within hours, and it was not what Zara had hoped for. Princess Zara, Elder Kylox's voice was stern and excited at the same time. You will return to Xerion immediately. This development is far too important for you to remain on Earth. Our scientists must study this phenomenon. You may have discovered the solution to our declining birth rates. But Elder Kylox, Zara protested, I cannot leave now. The human involved Alex. He doesn't know the truth about me, and I have learned things about human love and family that are crucial to understanding their society. Your personal feelings are irrelevant. Elder Vex's ancient voice cut through the transmission. You have a duty to your people. Return immediately. After the transmission ended, Zara sat in her ship feeling more alone than she ever had. The elders saw her condition as a scientific breakthrough to be studied. They didn't understand that she had fallen in love, that she had found happiness she never knew existed, or that the thought of leaving Alex felt like tearing away part of her soul. Over the next few days, Alex noticed that something was troubling her. Zoe, you've been distracted lately, he said as they walked through the campus botanical gardens. Is everything okay? Zara wanted desperately to tell him the truth. But how could she explain that she was an alien princess carrying his child? How could she make him understand that their love had created something that shouldn't exist? Alex, she said carefully, what would you do if you discovered that someone you cared about had been keeping a huge secret from you? What kind of secret? He asked, concerned. The kind that would change everything you thought you knew about them. Alex stopped walking and turned to face her. Zoe, whatever it is, you can tell me. Nothing could change how I feel about you. His words were so sincere, so full of the unconditional love that humans were capable of, that Zara felt her resolve breaking. What if I told you, she said slowly, that I'm not entirely human? Alex smiled gently. Well, I already knew you were. Extraordinary. What do you mean? Before Zara could answer, her communication crystal, hidden in her bag, began glowing urgently. An emergency message was coming through from Xerion. I have to go, she said, her heart breaking. There's something I need to handle. That night, Zara received the harshest ultimatum of her life. Princess Zara. Elder Kylox's voice was cold and final. You have 24 Earth hours to return to Xerion, or we will send a retrieval ship and bring you back by force. Your condition is too valuable to risk losing. Zara realized she was facing an impossible choice. If she returned to Xerion, she would become a laboratory specimen, studied for the rest of her life. Her child would be raised as a scientific experiment. She would never see Alex again, and he would never know what had happened to her. But if she stayed on Earth, she would be abandoning her duty to her people, who desperately needed the knowledge she had gained. She would also be putting Alex and their child at risk if the Xerions decided to take them by force. As she struggled with this decision, Alex appeared at her dormitory door, looking worried. Zoe, Maya told me you seemed upset. What's going on? Looking at his concerned face, Zara made the most difficult decision of her life. She had to tell him the truth. Alex, she said, leading him into her room. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen with an open mind. Okay, he said, sitting down and taking her hands. My real name isn't Zoe. It's Princess Zara, and I'm from a planet called Xerion in a distant star system. I came here to study humans for my people, but something happened that I never expected. Alex stared at her for a long moment. Then, instead of the fear or disbelief she expected, his face showed wonder. That explains so much, he said quietly. Your unusual knowledge, your different perspective. The way you ask questions like you're seeing everything for the first time. You're not afraid? Zara asked, amazed. Afraid? Zoe, Zara, I'm amazed. I've spent my whole life looking for proof that life exists beyond Earth. And the most wonderful proof was sitting right next to me all along, encouraged by his acceptance. Zara told him everything about her mission, about Xerian reproduction, about her discovery of human love, and finally, about their child. "We're going to have a baby?" Alex asked, his voice filled with awe. "A baby that shouldn't be possible," Zara said. "Half human, half Xerian. My people want to study us. They want me to return immediately. What do you want to do?" Alex asked. "I want to stay here with you," Zara said, tears flowing down her human cheeks. "I want to raise our child with love, not as a scientific experiment. I want to build a family based on choice and caring, not duty and obligation." Alex pulled her into his arms. "Then we'll find a way to make that happen. But my people will come for me," Zara warned. "Then we'll face that together," Alex said firmly. "You're not alone anymore." Over the next few hours, they developed a plan. Zara would send one final message to the High Council, but not the message they were expecting. "Honorable elders," Zara transmitted, "I have completed my research into human reproduction and society. My findings are as follows. Humans' greatest strength is not their biological reproduction system, but their capacity for love, acceptance, and family bonds that transcend biological compatibility." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I have learned that true reproduction, the creation of new life that thrives and grows, requires not just biological processes, but emotional nurturing, unconditional acceptance, and love. My child will be raised with these human values, and I believe this combination of Xerian abilities and human emotional development may be exactly what both our species need. I am resigning my position as a diplomatic observer and choosing to remain on Earth as the first permanent Xerian human cultural ambassador. My family will serve as a bridge between our species, demonstrating that cooperation and love can create possibilities that neither species could achieve alone." The response was swift and angry, but Zara had made her choice with Alex's help. She moved her ship to a remote location where they could live safely while raising their extraordinary child. Months later, when their daughter was born, she was the most beautiful being either of them had ever seen. She had Alex's warm brown eyes and Zara's musical laugh. When she was happy, she glowed softly with inner light. When she heard music, she hummed in harmonies that made flowers bloom faster and made everyone around her feel peaceful. As Zara held her daughter for the first time, she realized that her mission had succeeded beyond anything the High Council had imagined. She had discovered the most important truth about reproduction in the universe. It wasn't about efficient biological processes or genetic compatibility. It was about love creating new possibilities, about families formed by choice and care, and about the miracle that happens when different worlds come together in harmony. Years later, their daughter would indeed become a bridge between species, leading to a new era of cooperation between Xerian and Earth. But that's another story. For now, Zara was content to rock her baby daughter and sing her the lullabies of two worlds, knowing that love truly was the most powerful force in the universe.